Alright, so what am I doing today? How Cats the Motion Picture is an artistic masterpiece and why Taylor Swift is an artistic genius and why we should acknowledge it. No.
Baby, you know about the autumn, when the leaves are falling down.
So, let's talk about this guy. This is the Shadow Systems MR918. Shadow Systems is a company out of Plano, Texas, and they say all their products are manufactured in the United States. Which is weird because this looks distinctly German. Anyway, they say that the lower on this handgun is their own proprietary design. They made it, they built it, it's not a clone, it's not a knockoff, it's not a redesign, it's not any of that. Which, don't know if I buy that. Anyway, I bought this though. Now, nothing in there. Okay? Really upset that we still have to have that conversation, but, you know, we're going to continue having it. This is the Shadow Systems MR918. Now, we're going to talk about one of the features about this that I really like right off the bat. It is ready for an optic when it comes out of the bag. That's a slight irk. That is something I have an issue with. We'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, since it comes ready for an optic, one of the things I noticed that a lot of people don't do, or a lot of companies don't do, as a matter of fact, is a lot of times you can't co-witness your iron sights through most of your optics. This guy, they actually raise the sights up a little bit so you can co-witness your iron sights through your optic. Now, that's especially important for me because if this gets broken or whacked or the battery dies or whatever, okay, there's literally no good reason to not have backup sights. It doesn't exist. You should always have a plan B, and you should have a plan B for your plan B. Now, getting that out of the way, the front sight does have the little tritium glow-in-the-dark dot up there. Really like that. Okay, totally awesome. In the dark, it is super bright. Does get drowned out by this flashlight a little bit, but you've got an optic, and if you're running the optic the way you should be running it, you shouldn't be losing your optic and your flashlight anyway. Now, we have a threaded barrel. Now, one of the things I've noticed with every single threaded barrel that I've ever had is when you're shooting, the thread protector likes to work itself loose. There is an O-ring. I'll put the measurement or whatever for the O-ring that you can buy on here so it stops coming loose every time you're shooting it. I noticed after putting about 50 rounds through it one time that it was about 2 or 3 turns loose. And putting that fucking thing into orbit or into your neighbor, not a good thing, which is usually why I just decide to take them off in the fucking first place. I know I'm not getting a suppressor. Mainly because the ATF is probably already looking at me, and I like my dog. Fucking fed boys. Anyway, the texturing all around this gun is fantastic. It feels like fucking sandpaper. And I love that. I love a positive grip on this. I like to know that when I've got my hand on the gun and when I'm fucking holding onto it, it's not gonna wiggle around, it's not gonna scoot, it's not gonna let you milk it. There'll be another video at some point where I explain what milking the grip is. Anyway, we do have the cocking serrations up front, which also serve to lighten the gun. And they're in the back as well, which also serve to lighten the gun. As long as the super cool serrations up here. Then you have the window cuts on both sides of the gun. That's fantastic. One of the things I did find out about this gun when I was messing with it is that there's texturing on the front side of the trigger guard. And I don't know why you would do that. But speaking of the trigger guard, they did thin out the trigger guard down here a lot. And as you can see, there's the cut in here, which allows you to ride up higher on the gun. And then they took a chunk out of the guard down here as well, which I like. It does give you a very positive grip, and it feels pretty fantastic in your hands. When you take it out of the bag, you get multiple different back straps, which, I mean, I'm just kind of running the standard one because I have gigantic old bear paws, and I understand that not everybody does. It's not your fault. I run the standard back strap, so I just left the regular one on there. But one of the cool things you do get is this flared magwell attachment, which is super nice. I think I got 2 or 3 of them. Some of them have a steeper angle, some of them are more pronounced. I picked the one that was best for me, because I have gigantic old fucking bear paws. It also helps serve as kind of like a pinky rest and a better grip for those of us who have, ogre-sized hands. It really does help you get a better purchase on the gun. That was one of my issues with my old Glock 19, was that because of the way that they had done the grip of the gun and how short it was, a lot of times my pinky ended up resting on the magazine, which I didn't like. I couldn't get my hand further up on the gun to not be almost off the gun. But with the flared magwell, that's not a problem. Now, one of the things that they did on this gun that I didn't really like is the slide release, which is just your kind of standard prototypical Glock slide release. It's not pronounced, it's not longer, it's not bigger, it's not better. That's an issue for me because I have gigantic fucking hands. And trying to maneuver your gigantic fucking hand to get this tiny little piece in here, I don't like it. But that's something you can buy a new one. You can buy a different one. I know Cogworks makes one. That's super great. Except it's really expensive and I don't like it. I don't like when things are all super expensive. Speaking of super expensive, this guy's going to run you about $1,000. Now, technically the 918 model has been discontinued because Shadow Systems came out with the 920, which is next year's model. Speaking of models, on their website it says that the lower on this guy is not a knockoff, it's not a clone, it's not a reproduction, it's not a reworking, it's not a retooling. It's theirs. They made this lower. Anyway, yes, it looks strikingly similar to a Glock. Shadow Systems says it's not, but it looks like one. Anyway, I think all the internals are made out of like 416, 417 stainless. The copper treatment on the barrel just helps dissipate heat. That's my guess, unless they just painted it that color. It doesn't say either way. But again, copper helps dissipate heat better. So I have noticed that the gun does run a little bit cooler than a standard Glock 19. That could be because there's these giant holes in the side. I don't know. I didn't build it. I didn't design it. I'm just telling you what I think. Now, about that whole model thing. Shadow Systems says it's their own proprietary thing. But since it looks pretty much exactly the same as the name brand one, I'm guessing what's going on here is one's a Pontiac Firebird and the other one's a Chevy Camaro. For those of you that don't know, they're sister cars. Like, I want to say something like 80% of the parts on a particular year Firebird or a particular year Camaro will fit on the other car. Except for, of course, like the front clip and stuff like that. And some of the lights, some of the tiny lights are a little bit different. Anyway, we're talking about guns right now. Here's one of the things that irks me a lot. This is what you get. You get a carrying bag. I didn't need one of these. Now, again, that's a stupid thing to be fucking irked about. Yeah, you're right. It totally is. It absolutely is. When I bought my H&K, it came with a box that said H&K on it. Every gun I've ever bought came with a carrying case that had their logo or whatever on it. Which, like, okay, cool. First of all, I don't have to use this just for my H&K. But I can lock it. It's a hard-sided case, so I can fly with it. And it's never a bad idea to have more than one case you can put a gun in. This is for going to the range. This is for putting it in the backseat of your car and driving it to the range. And again, I have a lot of stupid hang-ups about stuff like this. But guess what? Now, because I have this instead of an actual locking box, I have to store it in something like this. Which means I had to go out and buy one of these. Well, I already paid for this. H&K gave me a box. Glock gives you a box. Rock Island, pretty sure, gives you a box. I just think they cheaped out on the very end there. You know, that's me though. Now, one last thing I wanted to touch on is the hollow sun up here. This is a pretty badass little optic. Now I know a lot of people are going to shit on it, and recently so, deservedly so. But this is still a fantastic little optic. I have racked it off door frames. I have racked it off parts of my truck. I have racked it off this big green box that I stole from the army. It doesn't give a fuck. I don't even think I've managed to mess up the finish yet, and I've tried to mess up the finish. So, about all there is to it. Now I can come back and do another review just on the hollow sun optics, because I do have a couple of them. But that's about all I've got for you today. So have fun, and if someone could please tell me that the movie Cats was actually a fever dream I had and not actually a thing, I'd really appreciate that.